Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another Supercoach Insider podcast. My name is Swiz, and I'm here to talk all things round 3. It is correction trade season. Players are on the bubble. We've got lots of movements, so we will get straight into that in a moment. As always, thank you to everybody that tunes in each and every week. Continue to check us out and support us through our social media platforms, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, and Twitter. If you want to contact us, Supercoach Insider 100 for all 3 of us boys, or Swiz26 for me directly. Thank you to our sponsors, Splash Vodka, for all their support as well. All right, round 2 review to start off with. So, as you can see there, I scored 22.98, had Laird VC, which I took with the captain Madden. The only real mistake, the obvious one, is Cam McKenzie with his 52 on field and Ashcroft on the bench killing me with 105. So it could have been a really good week. Unfortunately, rookie roulette killing me again. I was thinking McKenzie would hopefully keep his CBAs. Did not happen. There was a drop as they put Nash more through that midfield. And I did think Melbourne were going to put up a much better performance than they did against the Lions. I thought Ashcroft could still go like 70, but I thought McKenzie would probably do around similar. And that definitely did not happen. So I learned my lesson there. Always seems to happen, swapping the rookies around. But depending on my trades, I don't think I will have that issue this week. So that puts my round rank 5,194, but more importantly, moved me up about 15,000 spots. Now season rank 4,752. Pretty well much, I think, behind Benny Boy and Chris there. That first week, Witts versus Laird, 90 points, and Ashcroft not on field. There's another 50 points. So I'm about minus 100. Well, that's correctly 53. So I'm minus 143 points for mistakes this year. That's probably something that I'll track throughout the season to see how close that or how much that affect me. And they're not, I guess they're the obvious ones that, flipping the coin. And probably trying to, I guess, nearly antipod their Ashcroft, hoping that, people, if I didn't have him on field and he went poorly and other people did, thought I'd probably get ahead. That obviously cost me. So that'll be interesting to kind of track with that. So we'll set up my team as it should be for this week, and then we can get into some of the trades I am looking at. So first off, we'll put Ashcroft on field for McKenzie. That is an obvious one. Now, we already know the news. Hopper is out. Richmond has been absolutely decimated by injuries this week. Short, Hopper, Dusty, and then Broad with the suspension as well, all missing. So a lot of people will be looking to put the emergency on Baker. So we get a free shot with that. And Hopper will be in some of my trade plans we'll talk about in a moment. Madden's there, but we will put Witts on field for now, and then Madden can always come on for our loophole section there. So let's take off. We can keep the emergency there. And apart from that, that looks all normal. For argument's sake, we'll just put Cunnington in the midfield, Goulden back forward, because I like that setup. Dunkley, Rosie, Taranto, Goulden, Zeeble, Sheasel. Talking to our boys and Emily in the A team chat today. I think majority of us actually have that forward line set up. Maybe a couple have Cornelio in there, but it's pretty similar. And on that, we are the number 1 ranked league overall at the moment. So I think we were maybe 4th or 5th last year. So we're going one better at the moment. So that's a pretty competitive league for sure. Which I think kicks off with the actual head-to-head matches this week. So it'll be interesting to see how I go and the boys go in that. All right, so trade plans. Let's get into it. Doherty's one that I know a few people were talking about trading out. This is the moment I wanted him, and that's why I was considering Cripps as well, because he has such a great run coming up. Yeah, they've got the Giants, Essendon, I think Adelaide, West Coast in there. So it's not somebody that I want to be going antipod against in this period. I know he's got the break even of 161, but if he scores 100, he's still dropping 20k. He could potentially go down to an 80, and then we're looking at the extra 9k on top of that. So that's 29k. Could be maybe 50k over 2 weeks if things go incredibly wrong. At the same time, Doherty does have the ability to go large. We saw it in the preseason game, and I think there'd be a bit of FOMO there if I don't own him, and he does go large in some of these games. So I don't want to back against him, because this is the match I always thought they might struggle against Geelong. They actually played really well. And because of Ed Kernow's role in that match, it really did affect him. But as we said, it's GWS, North Melbourne, Adelaide, St Kilda, West Coast, and even the Doggies now in round 9 if they don't get their act together. The potential good points there. So, do I want to bet against one of the best defenders in that? No. So he's staying put. Ridley is one who could be very much on the chopping block here. So we'll get back to him in a second. I know a few people are looking at Jones. That week 5, that'll be counting out of his score in a couple of weeks. We showed what he did with that intercepting marking role. They've got rid of Sam Darcy, so he's dropped. So I think that even secures more up Jones's role in that defence. And the likely matchup at the moment they're talking about is Joe Danaher, but as good as Joe can be in the air, he does let his opposition opponent, get into the game, sometimes intercept marks. We all know Danaher's best is fantastic, but some of his worst games can be absolute shockers. So I think I'm going to still back Jones in there in defence, and any player that's playing intercept marking role is always good for points. So he's put. I don't need to talk about Gimby, McKenna, Constable. They're very much locked in there. And McKenna, a good thing, again, Rich is out, and I think Kitty Coleman's named on the bench, so I think McKenna will be the one starting off with kick-out. So if you don't have him, he might be, outside of Sheasel, of course, the most must rookie to get, because he's just got, his role is getting better and better every week. The big thing I want in the back line, and the obvious one missing, and he's absolutely flying at the moment, is Dacos. So that is my first mission, to get him in. And we will look at that option in a second. And we talked about Ridley's the one looking like on the chopping block there. Midfield, Laird, my most likely captain option. I know a few people are scared off by him. I still think he's going to go really well against Port. But he's... I think he showed last week what he can do. That first week... There was reasons for it, some will say it was maybe a bit soft because it's hot and the hand injury cop, but bounced back fine, and I'm happy to back him back in as that captain's role if my vice captain was to fail. Bont Green, don't need to talk much about that. Cunnington's the obvious one getting traded out, so he will be going in one moment. Setter's the GOAT, Setter GOAT. If you don't have him, that's a tough one. If you don't have Zeeble or Setterfield, you've got to probably go Zeeble first. If Setterfield had a more friendly vice-captain role, I'd say get him. But if you don't have Zeebs, he's the number one. If you do have Zeebs, you should be looking at getting Setterfield. And now with Hopper's injury, that is a definite one that you could be looking at side swapping. Hopper might only be a week. I'm a little worried because the injury didn't look great. He did play it out, and credit to him, but the club is saying he should be right for the Dogs, but it's just a should. It's not a yes, he will be right kind of situation. So I think it probably is a week, but there is some doubt about that. The 119, fantastic score, great break even, and it's somebody I'd like to keep. And I think I won't officially be doing that Hopper trade until after Baker plays. Because if Oscar Baker was to go 80, 90, I would keep Hopper there and take Baker's score. So it's an easy loophole with Baker got the Thursday night game. So that's why Baker should be your emergency. Most people have Baker there anyway. Finn Callahan is in a little bit of trouble here in my side. I do love the guy. I talked to him about all preseason. The foot injury was a little bit of a worry. Now the shoulder stinger, it's only a stinger, but it's just another little injury. So if I was to trade, if I'm not trading Hopper, it'll be Callahan, but it's probably one or the other. I played around with a situation of trading both Hopper and Callahan, but it doesn't probably give me enough cash to do what I want to do. So it potentially, I think, I'm just trying to work out, potentially I could actually go Hopper to Warple, Cunnington becomes Dacos, and Callahan becomes Chandler. There's a move I much prefer more than that, but it is something that I am considering, but that all depends on Oscar Baker. So we'll get into that one in a moment. And then Ashcroft now on field, and he can just stay on field. I don't care. If I cop another 50 from him, that's fine. Not playing rookie roulette anymore. The Rucks, Witts, and Marshall. I know a couple of people are looking, including Chris, putting Witts down to Darcy Cameron to get that 140k. Something I was kind of considering, but I'm looking at other ways to maybe get Cameron in. I just think Witts is solid. He didn't have a great game, double teamed against Phillips and Draper the other day, but he's still 108. If that's going to be his poorer games, I was actually surprised he didn't dominate more in that game. Like, yeah, I think the Bombers did a great job roving to him. But, yeah, he looks super fit, super competitive. I think 110 to 120 is not out of the realm, and he just looks like he's primed to play every game, that touch wood. So, yeah, he's not going anywhere. Marshall did what he did. Madden's there. Now, Madden is playing on Saturday this week, so those who have got him, you've only got Bulldogs, Brisbane, Collingwood, Richmond, or Hawthorn North as your vice-captain options. So that's your Bont. Some might have Neil or Dunkley there. Collingwood players, big this week, and we'll get into that in a bit of a moment. None of the Tigers. Hawthorn, maybe Sicily, but I don't think they score enough of the pie. And then people who have LDU or bringing in LDU, he is the other obvious vice-captain option. Could cop a tag this week, never know, but yeah, I think if you've got LDU, you've probably got to throw the vice-captain on him. But be mindful, that's a 145 game. Madden's playing at 435, so you've got to be ready. So you'd really want to know at three-quarter time that LDU's on 100 and you're like, okay, he's going 130 here. I can make the switch now. But yeah, just something to be mindful for those playing at home. And then I've talked about that forward line, and that forward line outside of Chandler coming in and Davey going into the midfield to give a forward mid link. That's not changing. I'm really happy with that. Wouldn't probably be nice to have Cornelio in there, but that's something I worry about when Sheasel and Zeeble get their defensive status, and I can move one or two back. And some of my planning that I've been looking at is all about not just this week, but long term, so the next 3-4 weeks. And I know talking to Chris here, like he's got the same view as trying to set your team up for the next month to 2 months, and trying to forward plan. Maybe I know he's trying to go a little bit more adventurous on who might get dual position status outside of the obvious ones. But for me, I'm just kind of more planning on where the obvious ones go in, and then I'll work my team around that. So, in regards to the trades that I really want to do, it is Ben Cunnington, see you later. Thank you for your service. We are going to, for now, trade Ridley. And the obvious one into that back line is Dacos. Absolutely flying. I know people are looking at Brennan Cox, maybe Luke Ryan. I'm in that one of that few positions. 45% of teams have him. I don't have Dacos, so in you come, mate. I'll keep it like that. So Dacos comes in to the back line. Now in that midfield, I think I'm left with 433k for now. So I said I'm going to put Davey into the midfield, and I'm going to go out and get Chandler. I'm looking at 3 trades this week as well, so I've already put the boost on. And if I go to cash cows, he's the cash cow that I do not have. So Chandler, now there's a little bit worried about his job security. Maybe in a couple of weeks' time, I still think he's going to make 100k for us. Hopefully he does well and then keeps his spot. Or Melbourne, you don't wish injuries on anyone, but they could potentially get another injury if he plays well. He keeps his spot. So he's not a must-have if you've got other people, and that's where I think the argument between Chandler and Warple I've been looking at, because obviously Warple would be a player on field. But that means I've got to do a little bit alternating trade, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then that leaves me now with 309,000, and for now we will trade Finn Callaghan. Then this is where the debate will come. If Baker scores well, I keep Hopper, and Callaghan's the one that goes. If Baker doesn't score well, Callaghan stays in as long as Callaghan's fit and playing, and Hopper is the one that gets out. And then I will actually move Goulden. You're going back into the midfield, and I am bringing in I don't want cash cows anymore. I want round 3 stats, and I am bringing in Collingwood's Ruckman and Darcy Cameron. So this is what it will end up looking like for my trades this week. Cunnington, Ridley, and Hopper out. Chandler, Dacos, and Cameron in. And then we'll confirm that, and we'll just have a little talk about my side, how that will end up. If Supercoach wants to play ball with me, which it now is. So we have Doherty, Dacos looking really good there. And the reason I'm looking at the 2 pies in particular, Richmond are absolutely decimated with injury. So if you take out Short, who scores about a 90, Hopper could score anywhere 90 to 100. Broad averages around 75, so even we call it a 70. And Dusty, Dusty can be anything, but let's say Dusty's an 80. The players coming in to replace them, you're thinking they're probably going to score between 40 and 70. Guys coming out from the VFL, they're not going to smash it. Maybe one of them because of the better role, might do quite well, but I would think, say, maybe the midfielders score 60 to 70, so let's call it 70. Let's be reasonable. So that's at least 20 points for Short, 30 points for Hopper, so that's 50 points there. Probably the player coming in to play the forward line's only scoring a 40, maybe less. Wet Knight, so a small forward or medium-sized forward trying to put, maybe a Mansell is probably only scoring a 30, so it's probably 50 points that gives to Dusty because, obviously Dusty's a gun. And then you've got Broad too, so probably the defender, it might be like, Ben Miller for Broad or someone like that, or maybe even Mansell's the one that plays back and they look at a different small forward up front. So you're probably thinking a 30 or 40 point guy, so there's another 30 points. So already there, probably being conservative, we're looking at maybe 120 points. That it could be even 150 points that Richmond would normally score, which is not being taken now. So that's more pie for the other players from the Richmond team or the Collingwood team to take. Now, where I thought Richmond would win this game if full strength versus full strength in a really tight battle, I think Collingwood would absolutely tell us now. You can't lose those sort of players in the midfield. So where are those points going to go? Well, firstly, that we talk about the 3,300 rule. So if it's a close game, both teams are going to get around that 1,650 each. Collingwood winning, I think it was about 1,900 last week's game, and I'll give you that to you. They actually went 1,947 points, and then in round one, they were actually very good against the Cats as well, 1,845. So you're thinking Collingwood probably, if they get a good win, are going to get 1,900 of those points. If you're splitting that over 23, let's just say the sub and the player gets subbed out, they might be getting 30, 40 points each. So that makes it between 21 players. You're looking at about 18, 20. It's not far off 90 points each player. And obviously you're going to have players from that Collingwood team who aren't going to necessarily get the ball. We've seen Mason Cox play a really good game against Richmond before. That actually works out to be 86.6. And then you're obviously going to have your defenders. So if we look at Collingwood last week against Port Adelaide, where they absolutely dominated that game, you still got guys like McCreery and Murphy and Quaynor getting in the 50s. So that naturally changes those averages. So we're saying the average Collingwood player is going to probably be 86 this week. You have 5-6 players scoring 50. That means other players are now scoring 100, 110, 115. So I think there's plenty of points there for Dacos. And the wet conditions, though it might bring Dacos back a little because it's going to be maybe harder to run. I think that definitely brings Darcy Cameron way more into play. There's going to be a lot more stoppages, hitting the ball down to Tom Mitchell, hitting out to advantage. So it's kind of a player I really want in my side this week. But then going forward as well, obviously we know Dacos is just a jet. He's running capacities brilliant. It's very hard to match up on him, and because everyone's got him, that's just the hurt factor, and it's been hurting me the first couple of weeks not owning him, so naturally want him there. But it's also what then Darcy Cameron does to my team and opens up. So if I do get an injury in my ruck, and especially if it was to Marshall, that's going to affect people. And we've already seen it this week. A lot of people are looking at trading Darcy. I don't like trades in my ruck, so I like to cover it, and that's why Madden's there. I was hoping that would be Gawn. Now that Gawn is out injured, I'm not going to get that dual position player in Grundy or Gawn, because Grundy now has to play ruck. Gawn is not going to get their status, maybe round 12 if he gets back in time, plays enough forward, but it's probably unlikely now, so I want that loophole guy. Darcy Cameron's the obvious one to cover that. The other things it does, like Gordon, yes, is in my midfield for now, but Zeeble and Sheasel, both of them will get dual position status, so hopefully by then either McKenna or Jones has maxed out, one of them goes out, and then Zeeble or Sheasel, one of them goes into the back line, and then Gordon comes into my midfield. But trying to work out which player I want in upgrade season, it does give me the flexibility then, because if there's a defender that's gone cheap, let's just say Dawson or Stewart comes back and he has a couple poor weeks and we get we get him at 500. I can bring the defender in by keeping Sheasel up the forward line. If there's a really cheap forward, like let's just say Canelio has a bad week, or there's somebody else from the forward line that is, becomes a must-have for whatever reason. Maybe Petrarca, for example, gets dual position player, which is just spitballing. A great player there. I don't think there's a lot of players in that situation at the moment, but we'll just use that as an example. I can put Sheasel back and then bring Petrarca forward. So it gives me flexibility around that. If Tim English does become a must-have, then I can look at options there. If for whatever reason Witts gets injured, I can or Marshall gets injured, I can just move Darcy Cameron into the rucks for a while. If there's not another ruck I like, and then I can even bring Goulden into the midfield, from the midfield to the forward line, and then bring in a midfielder. So I have a lot of flexibility with my team by doing that. The only thing is, as I said, if Baker plays really well, I keep Hopper, and Callahan's the one that goes out. Now the difference in cash there, by doing this trade, I'm sitting at 175,000. If it's Callahan, it's 87,000. So I want the money to have the ability next week to look at a couple of important players. One could be Bose, and he is the 277. So if he was to able to go 100 and the role looks really good again, it does give me the option. Maybe a Jones, maybe one of these other rookies, especially with 175k. Chesser, I can then get Chesser up to Bose if I want to. So that then gives me more flexibility again. And even Gimpy can come into my midfield for now. So that is an option there. I actually should put Davey back on the bench and play Mackenzie because on the field. So that's there. And then the other option, then even if it's 87k, it does give me some flexibility with that. The other one is Will Phillips from North Melbourne. So if he gets a Guernsey, looked good in that when he came on as a sub. A little bit more expensive, but let's just say he goes sort of 70 or 80. He might become a must-have rookie. It's going to be hard for people to get in. So having that much cash, Fergus Green, Davey goes in the forward line, and then I can bring him in. So that's some flexibility there. The other ones is Crozier. It's another one I was looking at. So again, that weird price, I think 218k. Having that much cash, Chesser, out you go there. Back into the backline, Crozier, Charlie Constable, you now become my loophole player between the defence and the midfield. So that's why I'm looking at doing this, because it gives me so much flexibility going through the next 3 to 4 weeks, and that's where I think I get the advantage over everyone else. I'd really like to keep Finn at least 1 week. If he goes well, then I can keep him going a while, but he only needs to score 60 this week to make 30k. And he obviously got the ability, he was injured last week, still scores 45. We know he can score 100. If he scores 100, we're looking at 48k, and then he's still got more cash to make. So that's why I kind of like him a little bit more than keeping Hopper, unless Baker goes well, because he's got cash to make this week. And if Hopper becomes a 2-week injury, it does become an issue. The only thing that hurts me, if Hopper only plays 1 week, I was only out for 1 week, and then he comes out and smashes it next week. But I still have the flexibility to go Callahan makes 30k, and then it's only 60k Callahan to Hopper again. And also Warple, even with that sort of 90 score, is only going to go up 40k at most, maybe 30k. So that's about the same amount that Callahan's going to go up. So even if Finn doesn't pull up, or only gives me like that 60 or 70 score, I've still got the option to go Callahan to Warple as well. Plus, I can do other things in case other injuries happen. So that's what I'm looking at the moment. I don't, in a perfect world, didn't really want to trade Ridley. So the other option I did look at was keeping Ridley there, have the third defender, but not get Darcy Cameron. So take Darcy Cameron out. Goulden comes in to the forward line, and then from there it would be we would have Warple come in there. So, and I can only do that by trading Hopper. So the extra defender, which would then push Charlie Constable, I think that moves him into the and it must move him to the midfield. When I was playing around with this before, then Warple comes in where Goulden's spot is, and Darcy Cameron out, and then Davey goes into the Goulden goes into the forward line. That would be right. And maybe it was Warple. I'm just trying to think how that actually worked. There was definitely somebody I'm missing there. Goulden goes. So I apologise for that. Goulden goes in here, and then Warple takes Goulden's spot. It did work in my head before, and I'm trying to think why there's a missing piece with Constable. No, because Constable takes Goulden. No, that's not right. There is some reason for that, and I'm trying to think why there's the trade. I might even actually do that if I undo the changes, and so everybody can actually see. Yeah, let's go confirm trades, because what I was trying to do with Ridley, so everybody can actually at home see what I was doing there. So I was going to trade out Cunnington. Out you go. That's the Supercoach lights out. I'm going to trade out Hopper and Finn Callahan. Chandler still comes in. Let's go cash cows. All right. So there's Chandler for me. Let's get in Warple. James Warple. And we still need to get Dacos. No, that's right, because Constable goes in the forward line. And we don't want cash cows anymore. We're doing Nick Dacos. Now, the only thing I don't like about that as much, because it doesn't give me as much cash, but it's still, this would give me 72,000. So we'll confirm that, and we'll just have a look how this looks in my team here. As that loads up, everyone should be able to see that at home. So yeah, this was the alternative one that I was kind of talking to the boys there. Oh, there it is. So Goulden swaps with Davey. So then, but Goulden would go on field. And then we have Ashcroft comes on field as well. That's the thing. I knew there was a reason. And then Oscar Baker is the one. So, yeah, the difference there is Doherty, Ridley, Dacos. So it does actually really strengthen up the defence. That looks good. The only problem is it's now Baker or Constable. But I was going to have Constable on the field in the back line anyway. So that doesn't really change too much. And it's still got Baker there as the loophole, which comes on field for me. And then Zeeble, Sheasel with Green and Chandler. So that's fairly solid. But do I want to... It comes down to, would I prefer keeping Callahan with a little bit of cash this week or potentially Hopper? And would I prefer Ridley or Darcy Cameron? And that's probably a really good debate at the moment. And the problem with Ridley is because of Zerk Thatcher's injury. Does Ridley have to play a little bit more lockdown? However, he's playing the Saints this week and then the Giants the week after, and he could potentially tear those teams a new one, because especially the Saints with their forward line issues. So yeah, that is something that's still under consideration for me, but I do like the other option again, because as we've said, I like the cover of Darcy Cameron covering those rucks if need be, and it does give more flexibility where I was talking before, Zeeble and Sheasel, when they get defensive status, they go back. So it actually now makes my defense really strong, but probably might leave my forward line just that little bit weaker. And it does look like my midfield's that little bit weaker too. So that's a little bit of the food for thought I was having. Nonetheless, my vice captain option is either going to be Dacos or Darcy Cameron. Bont is under a little bit of consideration for that, but I think just because of the amount of Tigers that are out, I'm going to go a Collingwood player, and it will just depend on the weather. And that evening, I will literally lock in my vice captain an hour before the game. If it is bucketing down, I'm going Darcy Cameron. If the conditions dry up, I'll be going Nick Dacos, and I will be captaining Laird. If you have Neil. Neil, he and McRae, they usually do really well against each other. So is a little bit of consideration there. I wouldn't touch Dunkley this week. I think Libba will put a lot of time into him just because of the rivalry now that Dunkley's left the side. But as I said at the start of the show, if you've got LDU, definitely put in the vice captaincy on him. Last couple of things, draft relevance players. I was just having a look through there. A couple drafts, Mason Wood's still there, with Jack Steele going out. Definitely one to look at. So if he's there, snap him up straight away in your midfield. Mitchie Owens, I don't really think he's a classic option, but is averaging really well. I think he's, couple 90 scores. Again, because of Steele and all these Saints injuries, one to grab up for your forward line for now. He could be a good little short-term person for you. And Ollie Florence still running around for defence. I've seen him in a few leagues there too. So there's 3 for your drafts. And then in regards to daily fantasy, for people who like to play that, your couple of smokies. Again, firstly, the Saints players this week, definitely look at them, especially whoever's named in the midfield, taking those Jack Steele points. And then for Richmond too, look who's named in the midfield. It most likely will be Jack Graham, and Jack Graham has forward status and he is an absolute tackling machine. So if it's a wet weather game like we're expecting, he could be on for 10 plus tackles. So definitely one for draft stars to look at. If the weather's a little bit drier, get on those Collingwood forwards too. Could have an absolute field day this week. So that's what I'll be looking at in my weekend draft stars. I'll be looking at those Saints midfielders and definitely Hawthorn North Melbourne players, especially North players who will be a little bit of more value this week. And then, Collingwood players loading up on them. Outside of that, thank you for all the questions that have been sent in. I'll answer them in a separate podcast coming up soon, and continue to check out all the other boys' podcasts. Also, my mates over at Centre Bounce had Emily, Supercoach Mama, on this week, so check out that. They're doing great stuff as well. And I'm also going to be joining Jock Reynolds to talk some Supercoach and answer some questions on that too. So when that comes out, definitely check that one out. Hopefully everybody is pumped for this round. It's a big one, trying to correct your teams. So all the best with that, and we will talk soon. Bye.